Welcome. I'm Angela Shen.
And I'm Ebony Romero.
And today we will be launching the New Mexico Newsport's first mobile series, Creative New Mexico Live.
Each month this semester, we will host local guests that are local entrepreneurs to discuss their contributions to the creative economy.
So tune into each show on Periscope and ask us your questions, and we might feature them live.
So today, our very first guest is Peri Pakroo. She is the founder of Videography, which is an online career and lifestyle magazine for artists. Peri, it's so wonderful to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. So Peri has over 20 years of experience in consulting with businesses and nonprofits. Outside of Videography, Peri is also a business author and coach specializing in creative and smart strategies for self-employment and businesses.
Our other guest today is Renz-Whitmore, the founder of Emergent Wave Consulting, a consulting group that uses people and technology to help build communities. Previously, he was a coordinator for the UNM Arts Lab and worked for the New Mexico Tech Council.
Awesome. So it's so wonderful to have both of you here. It's
Great
a pleasure
Thank you.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to kick off our show with both of you.
Congrats on the new show.
Yeah, thank you. So go ahead and tell each of you tell us a little bit about your businesses and how you got started.
Would you like to go ahead?
Oh, my heavens. So I will try. So I've been doing very much the same thing for a number of years with a few different hats on. I have only recently realized that what I'm doing is consulting around economic development and community building. But it's sort of the through line for things that I was doing here at University of New Mexico with Arts Lab. And then I was also the executive director of New Mexico Tech Council. And now I'm helping with the city's economic development. But really, I don't know if this makes any sense, but it's a way of you finding potential critical mass, different kind of communities, and you're bringing the different players together. You're trying to find activities that they're going to make them work together. And then if things work out well, that leads to sort of a sustainable community. I don't know if that makes sense, but occasionally it works.
It's like a unique way of networking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right, then I'll just shut up.
You plant a lot of seeds and nurture them, and so many of them I have seen grow. I've known you for so long in the work you do, and I have seen so many things come up around it.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm sure that some have withered
And it's great to understand when things aren't working out. It's an experiment. You probably had a great meal or a great cup of coffee or a great individual event, and maybe that's all that you need to have. And sometimes there's the energy in the room that's like, maybe we could do something more with this, and that's fantastic when that
That's
happens.
awesome.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Peri, could you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So the last 3 years I've been doing Videography, which is an online creative career magazine, and we publish daily posts from working artists. So what makes us special is that it's actually career and lifestyle advice for artists by artists, not from consultants telling you how you should run your arts career. It's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, all the mistakes that people make. So say posts from musicians about going on tour and they got their equipment stolen. That's when they realized they didn't have insurance, or gallery contracts with artist galleries and stuff like that. So we've been doing that for 3 years, and it's been really wonderful, and we are actually global and national. Our contributors and our readers are all around the world, but we're based here. And so it's been really fun. And before that, I was a business consultant, and I'm a business author. So I have a number of books out, like the Small Business Startup Kit, to give you an example, and like starting and building a nonprofit. So kind of nerdy how-to stuff, aimed especially at people who might not think of themselves as a business person. Like, again, like artists and creatives have always kind of been my peeps, and but people who want to take it to the next step and actually make a business out of it, that's kind of been my focus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I've used her books to
launch.
Perfect. Let's
Awesome.
see. We launched one nonprofit, and one nonprofit we figured out, partially with help from the book,
That's great.
that it shouldn't have gone forward.
Well, there you go.
And it's great to kill it before it starts. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Right on.
There you go, applying things. So what are some of the trends you guys see in the creative community right now?
I mean, I think one of the things that I see is that maybe a few years ago it seemed like there were only a few leaders or a few organizations that were really truly making things happen. And one of the things that I've seen really primarily maybe the past 2 years is you see a lot of different people taking leadership, taking ownership of making things happen, doing their own events, great stuff that's going on in the plaza, all stuff in the creative scene. So
There's more diversity now.
It's definitely more diversity, and it's really so important that you get all of these different kinds of voices out there. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I totally agree. There's so many initiatives, programs, things put on by organizations and by the city, and different ways, different angles to help build resources for the creative community. I mean, yeah, several years ago, I would have thought, my natural thing was like, Eric's involved in all that, but now you're involved in part of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really a lot of stuff going on, and every time I get online, there seems to be another program and more support. So it's great to
definitely
see.
It's growing.
Yeah, it's progress. So stemming on that, have you guys seen a change of business development throughout your career? For example, the 2008 recession, have you guys seen a larger development of business since then, or is it something you've ever really thought about? But
I mean, as a freelancer, because I also have been like a freelance editor, for a long time, taking client work, and definitely 2008 hit me pretty hard. A lot of people lost clients, budgets dried up, teaching gigs that I had all of a sudden were not funded anymore. But I think it's kind of rebounded, and I do also think, again, then putting on my other hat as a small business self-employment coach, more and more people are looking at self-employment as a way. It's a survival strategy, really, because you can't really count on a job. And that was, I think, a real lesson around that recession. And so I've definitely seen people increasingly look towards self-employment and freelancing to get through difficult economic times.
cool. So kind of like stemmed creative ideas.
I think
and
so.
people to get out there and do it themselves. Awesome.
Well, it feels like so people are. And entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial, it's kind of a tricky word. Not everybody considers themselves an entrepreneur. But I think more and more people are recognizing they need to take ownership of their lives and their, career, for lack of a better word, in order to move things forward, whether that's as an independent contractor or doing solo work, or even if they're part of a larger company.
Yeah.
So that's one great thing I think to see more recently.
Definitely more leadership going on. Yeah, so I think, Peri, this question might apply to you a little more, but we know that government and educational funding for arts has been decreasing, so how do you think creative entrepreneurs should stay relevant and current?
Staying relevant and current. Well, again, I mean, at least in our local community now, there are actually really just an explosion. There's so many initiatives and opportunities to educate yourself, to up your business skills. So now of all times, there's really not a shortage, and I'm just speaking locally in Albuquerque and probably New Mexico as a whole. There are all kinds of resources. So you've got to just get out there,
And look for
network,
them and know,
research, look online and find, because there can just be so many really, and you find the ones that are right for you. And just keep your ear to the ground and stay out there and network.
Yeah, gotta be persistent.
That's awesome. What about you? You think anything?
Well, I mean, I think related, so it's one of the reasons why New Mexico's had some struggling times, or it struggles economically, is a lot of the business we've had has been from the government. So recognizing that, this is not just a short-term trend, but government funding for everything has been slimming down. So whether that's for the arts or the federal labs or something else. So I think one of the things that's forced is for artists and really anyone who's creative and has been kind of getting that as one of their main sources of income, they've got to diversify or think of being more business-like and other things like that. So I think that's led to some it's forced some creativity that folks might not have wanted to do. But I think overall, I think that's made people more professional in how
That's
they
the main
pursue their pursuits.
takeaway. So take initiative, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just speaking about your guys' businesses, here in New Mexico, do you think if you were somewhere else that your businesses would differ drastically in another location? For example, a larger city like New York or Los Angeles, or somewhere smaller? You think your role would change, or?
I think mine would probably be my client work for small business consulting and also for editing. Those are they're not the same thing. They're two things I juggle. I think it probably would be different. I mean, budgets are slimmer here, and my personal the editing work that I do it's healthcare related. It's kind of industry specific, and there's not a lot of local clients. So in a different place, I don't know, I might have more of those high-paying clients.
Yeah.
But for the arts work, I mean, for working in the creative community here, it's actually very rich, and there's both individuals and organizations. There's so many to work with. So I don't know.
There's so much culture
Goes
here,
both
and it's so
ways.
diverse. So.
Yes.
Well, I think that's a really key piece. I'd be doing something probably completely different. I learned a lot from looking at other sort of mid-sized emerging communities, a lot of stuff in the Midwest, Fargo, North Dakota, a lot of great things happening in Iowa, because those communities, they're kind of overlooked when you think about
Yeah.
startups and innovation.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're thinking about Boston and Silicon Valley and things like that.
Yeah.
But so much of what I do is really about the community.
Yeah.
And I think in places like this, there is a really rich community, and there's a cultural aspect. There's all these different kinds of threads that come together in that. So I'd be doing something pretty similar, but it would be in a similar kind of location,
Sure.
I think, in the country.
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
Hidden gems here in
Yeah,
our state, right?
mid-sized cities is where to go.
Yeah.
So where do you guys see the future of consulting going, and how prevalent do you think your roles are in today's economy?
I'll try to. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out in many ways what I'm doing and thinking about kind of that next step. What's going to happen. I think it's a super exciting time here in Albuquerque, and frankly, the first part is like, how can I roll up my sleeves and help make things happen? But in the back of my head, it's like, well, by doing this, I also am trying to make myself more marketable. So it's definitely a thought in my head that, oh yeah, I need to be, taking notes and getting these processes down so that I could, take the skills that I've developed and apply them elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for me, working with artists and trying to kind of up their business skills and their capacity as business people, I think there's just so much more awareness and momentum behind this idea of artist as business person, artist as entrepreneur. And one thing that I've always kind of viewed myself as a little bit of a bridge between the art world and the business world, because a lot of times, a lot of the business resources that might be out there just do not speak in in the artist language, and artists feel either intimidated or they're like, that's not me. And I have always really tried to kind of bridge those worlds. Maybe that's because I do, I do some creative stuff. So I think it's a great time to be in this realm, because it's just becoming more and more of a commonly understood thing. Artists need to be self-directed. They need to have some professional skills, and that doesn't mean that they have to sell out, and that doesn't mean that they have to go corporate. But a few professional skills are going to help them sustain and grow. And so I'm hoping it just keeps growing for me as well.
That's awesome. So what are some common misconceptions that you guys see about starting a business? And then for those that have creative ideas but aren't sure how to get started, what's some advice that you would give?
Oh boy.
Well, I'll
where
dovetail
do I
what I was
begin?
saying.
Yeah.
A lot of artists, for one thing, think the business side is really, really hard. And it's really not. A lot of the bureaucratic stuff is not that big of a deal. I mean, really, the hard thing is like finding what's your niche, what is it you're selling that somebody else actually wants to pay you for. And, with artists, by definition, you're probably offering something somewhat unique. So just finding markets, but I think it's a misconception that business needs to be really complicated and wonky. There are some unsavory parts of it. You have to be organized. You got to keep track of your books and stuff like that. But it's a much lower bar to clear, I think, than many creative people imagine it to be.
I'm not sure that I can add anything to that. I think that's great.
That's awesome.
So what kind of benefits do you think your companies bring to the community, and how can students get involved if they want to?
Good question. So let's see. I don't have a call to action, but I should have one. I mean, it's let's see. I think it's useful to have somebody who's like a third party who's been down the road and who's seen
Like a
these
mentor?
kinds of things happen. Yeah, you have that experience. You're bringing that to the table, and I've seen lots of different kinds of groups move forward. It's like, oh well, okay, maybe we need to facilitate this meeting this way, or it seems like. So there's a lot of experience that you can just call on, kind of your toolbox. So that, I think, is something that, having done something in this space for about 10 years, I think I bring to the table. Students get involved. There's so many things going on, but a lot of them don't necessarily have something that's taking place on campus. So the more that we can kind of build those connections between on campus groups or student groups and some of the great activities that Peri and others are doing.
Yeah, even more
that'd be great.
networking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Pyrograph, talking about the online publication, which is really the thing that I'm most active with these days, we publish every day. We do usually have an opening for an internship, which I think we do right now. We do podcasts. We do videocasts. You've been on one of each, I think. We did the audio one last year. We did video one this year. So, stuff like this. And we're always looking for ways to put out content in engaging and fun and interactive ways. So get in touch with Pyrograph. And not to mention just our day-to-day contributors. Part of the whole vision behind the publication is to kind of bust this myth of making it, and not, you know, all our contributors are they're definitely not just people who have made it big time. It's people at all stages, you know, like, why did you decide to go to art school, even if you're in the school? So there are peers out there that are going through the same questions, and if you're willing to share your story, and we actually pay for our contributors, you know, share your story and in an engaging way, and we look for entertaining stories that share lessons learned, and that's basically our format. People doing creative work. So you journalist people, you count in that world, and students would definitely fit into that as well. So go to pyrograph.com and use the contact link. Contact us.
I'll just throw in one other thing. So if different groups or classes or whatever are looking for people from the community, business community, creative community, getting in touch with folks like me and Peri, we're really glad to find people and kind of put them in that position so that we're making those connections happen on campus, and then that just makes a better, healthier community all around.
Definitely,
Totally. Awesome, cool. Well, we're just about to get things wrapped up, but just again, to continue off of what we were saying, where can our viewers learn a little bit more about your guys' businesses, but too, to make those connections and stay in touch with you?
Let's see. The best thing that I've currently got, I'm one of the organizers of a weekly meetup called 1 Million Cups. It's Wednesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. I just came over from that at the Fat Pipe ABQ. It's downtown, just on Broadway. And every week we've got 2 presenters. They'll talk about business. The reason I bring it up is we have, on average, over 100 people in the room. They're representatives from lots of different groups. They're people or service providers, entrepreneurs, people who are making things happen. If there's a chance of getting down there, that's great. It's also available online, so that's my number one way of getting people in touch with the community.
It's a great event. I've been to it, and it's always a great crowd there. I recommend that for sure. For me, go to pyrograph.com or peripakroo.com, which is my consulting biz. Pyrograph is doing more, and we're trying to really get our regular events going. So the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month, which is today, we're having office hours at Draft Station, which is down on base 1720 Central. I want to say 17. It's on the west side of Central downtown. So from 5 to 7, we just creatives gather and talk shop. So you guys could come, anybody could come. There's no speakers. It's just kind of an informal gathering. And 2nd and 4th Wednesdays, that's Pyrograph office hours. And we're, go sign up for our email list, and you'll hear about our events and find out more about what we're up to. And Facebook, actually. Facebook, we have a lot of engagement there, and just a lot of people interacting. So that's facebook.com/pyrograph.
Cool. All right, great. Well, thank you, Peri and Eric, for being such wonderful first guests for Creative New Mexico Live.
That's great.
And from all of us here at New Mexico Newsport, we hope that you join us for our next show on Periscope. We plan on having the founder of a film production company along with several other exciting guests this semester.
And guys, make sure you stay connected with us through Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat at NM Newsport. Again, that is Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat at NM Newsport. And I'm Ebony Romero.
And I'm Angela Shen. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.